So you want to ask some questions about the noble truth of suffering?
I don't understand the sankhara.
Now, number 4 is a group of 50 mental states. One of these 50 mental states is in English volition and in Pali cetana. Cetana. And that cetana is also called sankhara because it conditions other mental states, or it helps other mental states to do their own function. But here, the name of the cetana, sankhara, is applied to all 50 mental states. And so all 50 mental states are called sankhara aggregate. Actually, sankhara is just one, but it is the leader of all these 50 mental states, and so all 50 mental states are called sankhara aggregate. But in fact, sankhara is the name of cetana, of volition, which is just one among the 50 mental states. Now you understand? Any more questions? No? Okay. In order to understand the first noble truth in depth, what must you do?
You have to do vipassana meditation.
So reading books enough? No. Listening to talks enough? No. So you have to see it for yourself, right? So in order to see it for yourself, you have to practice, because this kind of understanding cannot be borrowed from any other person. I cannot transfer it to you, and you cannot transfer it to me. You have to do your own, you have to make your own effort, and I have to make my own effort. So that is one aspect of Buddha's teachings. Buddha's teachings actually cannot be transferred to another person. I cannot give my samadhi to you, right? You cannot give your samadhi to me. What I can do is give you instructions how to get samadhi, right? Because samadhi is in your mind, and I cannot enter in your mind and then make samadhi there. So in Buddha's teachings, we have to rely on ourselves for understanding, for the true understanding of, say here, the noble truth of suffering. And the noble truth of suffering can be understood only when we practice vipassana meditation. We may think that we understand noble truth by reading books and listening to talks, but still our understanding is not enough, or not deep enough. So we have to understand it deeply, so that even what are called pleasures in the world, we understand them as dukkha or suffering. And also when we understand this, we can easily accept the Buddha's teaching that all 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering. And when we understand this, we will not accuse Buddha of being a pessimist. You know the word pessimist? So many people say that Buddha was pessimistic, right? Buddha's teachings are pessimistic because they say we don't like Buddhists because you always talk about dukkha, right? But what we are saying is not just what is bad in the world, in life, it is a fact. So what Buddha said was the fact, not just one part of the fact. And Buddha did not stop at saying there is dukkha. Buddha also said that there is a cause of this dukkha, and there is the cessation of this dukkha, and there is a way that will lead you to the cessation of dukkha, right? So how can we accuse Buddha of being a pessimist? A pessimist is, it is dukkha and then you cannot do anything, right? You have to just surrender to dukkha and do nothing. But Buddha did not say that. Buddha did not stop there. First he told us that, life is suffering. Life is suffering because it is suffering. It is a fact. It is a reality. And then he didn't stop there, but he said, and that suffering has a cause. And I have discovered that cause. And then that suffering can be made to end. That suffering will come to cessation. And here is how, what to do to end that suffering. Okay, now, in order to understand the Four Noble Truths, you have to understand a simile of a doctor. A doctor first diagnoses a patient, right? So he examines the patient and then he says, you have this disease. And then he will tell him, I know what causes this disease. Then the patient wants to know, can my disease be cured? Buddha said, yes, it can be cured. It can come to cessation. Then he will ask, the patient will ask, what medicine should I take? Then the doctor will give him medicine. In the same way, Buddha gave us the Four Noble Truths. So if you understand that simile, you understand the Four Noble Truths. Okay. So now we come to the second noble truth, the noble truth of the origin of suffering, or the noble truth of the cause of suffering. So Buddha did not discover that everything in the world is suffering, but he also discovered the cause of this suffering. Now it is important for all beings to get rid of suffering. We don't like suffering and we always want to get free from suffering. But when we want to get free from suffering, we must know what causes this suffering. Suffering is already here and we cannot just crush it. So if we want to get free from suffering, we must know what causes this suffering. Until we know the cause of suffering, we will not get free from suffering. We will not get anything to get free from suffering. Like a disease, right? A person has a disease, and if the doctor doesn't know what causes this disease, he cannot cure it. Only curing the symptoms is not the real answer. So you must deal with or treat the cause of that disease. So in the same way, now we have this disease of suffering. Then we want to get rid of this disease. Then what must we do? We must first find out what causes this disease. And when that cause is found and destroyed, then the disease will disappear. So this is in this logic that we must understand the second noble truth, the noble truth of the origin of suffering. It is said that Buddhas always always get to the cause and not to the effect. Something like, say there is a mango tree. There are mango fruits now. Since they are already fruits and on the trees, we cannot destroy them. Let us say we don't want the mango fruits. But now they are on the tree and we cannot do anything about this. But if we do not want the fruits in the future, we can do something. Say we can put chemicals in the roots and so on, so that the tree loses its ability to produce fruits, right? So in that way we can do. So that means we can act on the cause, not on the effect, because effect is already here and we cannot do anything about it. But we can do something about the cause of this effect. So when the cause is treated, when the cause is removed, then the effect is also removed. So it is very important that we know the cause of this suffering. So in finding the cause of suffering, or in pointing out the cause of suffering, Buddhism stands unique among all religions. Now you have heard about other religions, right? So they may point out to creation of the God or the Brahma as a cause for everything in the world, right? God created this world, or the great Brahma created this world, and they end there. But in Buddhism, no God, no creator God or Brahma is recognized. Instead, Buddha pointed out that this is the cause of suffering, not the creation of the Brahma, not the creation of the God, but this craving. This is the cause of suffering. So if we want to get rid of suffering, if we want to destroy suffering, we must destroy the cause of that suffering. And Buddha said, I have discovered that cause of suffering. And that cause of suffering is stated as tanha in Pali. And tanha is translated as craving. You crave for something. You long for something. But the word tanha, the literal meaning of the word tanha is thirst. Thirst for sensual objects, thirst for sensual pleasures, and that thirst is called tanha in Pali. But nowadays this word is translated as craving. So Buddha pointed out that the cause of this suffering is tanha, or craving, or attachment. And that tanha is described as producing rebirth. Now you may turn to paragraph 61. So you see there, how is it said there? Producing rebirth or something. Pono bhava, pono bhavika.
Thus it produced further become.
further becoming. Yeah. So this thirst or tanha or craving produces rebirth. So whatever rebirth we had is the result of this tanha. Now we had tanha in the past lives, and that tanha produces rebirth here, say, we as human beings. So we are born as human beings because we had tanha in the past, and we still have tanha in this life here. So this tanha will produce or create new rebirth in the future. So in this way it goes on like a chain reaction. The tanha here producing tanha, the rebirth there, and the tanha there producing rebirth in yet another existence, and so on. So this tanha has the ability to produce rebirth. So whatever rebirth we had is actually the result of that tanha in the past. So this tanha has the power or ability to produce rebirth. And this tanha is again accompanied by delight or something. In Pali it is called nandiraga. That means that the delight and attachment is the same as craving. And then the last one is, how is it translated there?
What is meant is that it is identical meaning.
Next one.
It's a particle. Its meaning is which is that.
Before that, tatra binandini, taking delight in this or that existence.
Concerned with this and that. Wherever personality is generated, that there is concern with that.
Okay. That means this tanha, wherever a person is reborn, the first active moment in that life is accompanied by tanha. Even if you are born in hell, you will be attached to that life because of that tanha. So this tanha is take delights in here and there. That means in this life and that life. Where in whatever life you are reborn, even as a small insect, the first moment, the first active moment in that life is accompanied by that attachment to that life. That is why we say life is precious to every being or something like that. So even though a person may be a cripple, he is attached to his life, right? He doesn't want to die. So wherever a person is reborn, this tanha arises as the first active conscious moment in that life, and that is attachment to that life. And that tanha is said to be of three kinds. Now I want you to understand these three correctly, because sometimes the translations are just the translation of the word is misleading. So there are three kinds of tanha, and they are in Pali kama tanha, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha. I think you can find that in Visuddhimagga there, 61. After what are they? Kama tanha. Thus for sense desire or something. It is said that I will talk about them later, right? And does he give the chapter number and paragraph number where you can find the
Chapter 17.
so you go to that chapter 17 and paragraph number also? Hmm?
I'm not sure. It says 6 cravings for things visible.
Hmm?
The 6 cravings for things visible.
What is the paragraph number? 235?
233.
So go to 235.
235.
What do you find there?
When visible data craving offers enjoyment with sense desire, enjoyment of visible data as object that has come into the focus of the eye, it is called craving for sense desires.
So there are three kinds of tanha. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha. First it says there are 6 kinds of tanhas. That is tanha for visible objects, tanha for sounds, tanha for smells, taste, touch, and dhammas. So there are 6 kinds of tanhas. Each one of those tanhas can be of 3 kinds also. So they are kama tanha, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha. So how is kama tanha translated there?
You don't have it.
Hmm?
Actually, it hasn't.
235. It is called kama tanha when it rises, being delighted with something like that.
Craving for becoming.
That is the second one. The first one, craving for sensual.
Or not becoming.
No, the first one. Sensual craving for sensual desires.
Visible data craving.
Hmm?
Craving for sense desire.
Right. That is the one. So that is kama tanha. So craving for sense desire. Actually, craving for sense objects. Now, the objects are all called sense objects because they can be seen, they can be heard, they can be smelled, and so on. So everything we see, we experience in the world, we can call objects of senses. Say object of the eye, object of the ear, and so on. And craving for those objects is called kama tanha. Now you want a new house, right? That is kama tanha. You want a new car, that is kama tanha, and so on. Because it is craving for the objects of the senses. So you are attached to something, and you are pleased with that attachment. You are pleased with that thing. So that is called kama tanha. And the next one is
Craving for becoming.
yeah, that is what I don't like. The translation is one thing and the meaning is another. Now you read further. What does it say?
Craving for non-becoming. Oh. When visible data created objects, the enjoyment of sense desire, the enjoyment of visible data as occupants come into the focus of the eye, it is called craving.
No.
Oh.
When it is accompanied.
But when that some visible data craving occurs along with eternity view that assumes that same object to be lasting and eternal, it is called craving for becoming.
Right.
For it is greed accompanying the eternity view that is called craving for becoming.
Okay. So bhava tanha. Now there are two words, bhava and tanha. Now here bhava does not mean existence. Bhava here implies something, the view that things are permanent. That is why the same tanha accompanied by this view that things are permanent is called bhava tanha. It is not craving for existence, because craving for existence can be kama tanha. Existence is also the object of sense. But that kama tanha, when it is accompanied by this wrong view that beings are permanent, that things are permanent, then it is called bhava tanha. So bhava tanha does not mean craving for existence, but craving accompanied by a wrong view that assumes everything to be permanent. Now there are views like, say, there is an atta in beings, and this atta is eternal, it is permanent, and so taking that to be permanent is called a wrong view in Buddhism. And the tanha that is accompanied by that wrong view is called bhava tanha.
Craving accompanied by wrong view
That assumes that all things are permanent, something like that. So that tanha is called bhava tanha. The next one,
craving for non-becoming.
okay, that is more frightening. Craving. Once I gave a book to a man, and then about a week later he came back and said, in Buddhism suicide is okay. Buddha allowed suicide. I was surprised, and I asked him, why do you say this? Then he said, here Buddha has taught that craving for annihilation. So craving for annihilation means craving for suicide. So it is okay, he said. So here vibhava tanha means not craving for non-existence. It is the same as the second one. Craving that is accompanied by a wrong view that things are annihilated at death. Okay, you read Visuddhimagga.
destined to break up and be destroyed. It is called craving for non-becoming.
Yeah.
It is the greed accompanying the annihilation view that is called craving for non-becoming.
Yes. Yeah. So the translation is not so good, but the explanation is all right. Yeah. The English translation of the word is not so good. So craving accompanied by the wrong view that assumes things to break up and no more, say, yeah, something like that. Now there are, say, two kinds of views that are called wrong in Buddhism. So one is the eternity view. That means beings are eternal, things are eternal, and so on. And there is another view that takes beings, once they die, and there is no more for them. So when the tanha is accompanied by that wrong view, then it is called bhava tanha or vibhava tanha. So it is not craving for existence, and it is not craving for non-existence, but it is craving that is accompanied by that wrong view, eternity view or annihilation view. So that we must understand clearly. So you cannot go by just the translation. Translations are misleading. So there are three kinds of tanha now: kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Whatever tanha it is, it will always produce rebirth. So that is why it is called rebirth producing. Now actually it is not only tanha, but along with tanha we have to understand ignorance and kama. So these three arise together and actually produce new life, a new existence. When we say here tanha, actually this tanha is accompanied by the volition cetana and all cetana or kama, and also accompanied by avijja or ignorance. Now ignorance is like blindfolding a man. You know? Say there are three men and they caught one man, and then one of the men blindfolds the man, and the second man turns this man towards a what you call a precipice, say at the edge of a mountain, and a big hole there, right, as a mountain. So, and then the third man pushes him down. So something like that. So when a person is said to be reborn in another existence, avijja, ignorance, makes him not see the things as they really are. And then tanha makes him attached to the life, and then kama pushes him down, and then he is reborn in the next life. So when there is a next life or rebirth, these three mental factors are working together actually. Not just tanha, not just kama, not just ignorance. So these three are like a party of three. So one blindfolds the man, the other turns him to the precipice, and then the last one pushes him down. So in the same way, avijja makes us not see the faults of the life. That is why we are attached to things. Then this attachment to life makes a person who is dying to incline towards the next life, and then cetana or kama comes and pushes him to the next life. So although tanha is mentioned here as a cause of dukkha, we must understand that it is not only tanha, but also avidya or ignorance and karma are involved. Tanha is mentioned here because it is prominent, it is evident, and so what is evident is mentioned here as the cause. And also, when tanha arises, according to Abhidhamma, the cetana also arises and avidya also arises. They always arise together. So when one is taken, the others are also taken. When we say tanha, we do not take tanha only, because suppose there are the three things connected with a thread, right? So you pick up one thing, and then the other two also comes with the thread. So in the same way, when we say tanha, we just don't mean tanha only, actually, but tanha along with the ignorance and the karma or cetana. But it is prominent here, and so tanha only is mentioned here as the cause of suffering. Actually, the others are also cause of suffering.